Well, hello, Year 7. So, we've come to the end of our population topic. So, just to remind you, we've done all about population growth. We've learnt about the reasons why some populations are growing and why people have so many children. We've learnt about why it is that some countries have declining populations and people are choosing not to have children. We spent a bit of time looking at the demographic transition model, which showed that countries pass through lots of different stages as they get wealthier. And we've looked at ageing populations and the pros and cons of having an elderly population or a youthful population. And we've looked at China's one-child policy as well as a way of trying to bring down a rapidly growing population. So we've come really to the end of this unit now, and like we always do at the end of a unit, we do a little assessment test on it so that we can do some of the things that it says on that slide there, so that we can measure your progress and we can report back to your parents and back to you, so that we can plan for better answers and so that we can set goals so that we can improve over time. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Okay, so these are your assessment questions that I would like you to answer today. You can spend all lesson on this, but you must remember to go back onto your Teams meeting in the last 5 minutes for some feedback with your teacher. So I'm just going to run through these questions and I'm going to give a little bit of advice for them before you make a start. So number 1, the world's population is growing or declining? You have to write the correct answer from those brackets. So you have to write down for number 1 either growing or declining. That's for 1 mark. For question 2, the fastest growing populations are in, and you've got to write down the name of the continent. One answer please, the name of the continent that has the fastest growing populations. Number 3, the slowest growing populations are in, and again you have to write down the name of the continent with the slowest growing population. So you're choosing something out of the brackets there. Question 4, you have to write the letter of the correct definition for birth rate. So I have written 4 definitions there, A, B, C and D. One of them is correct. You need to write down the letter of the correct one for 1 mark. Number 5, fast growing populations are often due to people having large families in poorer countries of the world. Explain 2 reasons why people have so many children. Now this question is worth 4 marks. So you're only being asked to give 2 reasons. Now if you give 2 reasons simply, you will get 2 marks. It does ask you to explain, so you need to give a reason and explain the reason to get 2 full marks for it. Then you've got to give a second reason and explain it. So look back to those lessons that we learnt when we learnt about why it is that people have so many children, and make sure you give a really good detailed answer in order to try and fight for 4 marks. Question 6 is your longest question, and this is worth 6 marks. China introduced a one-child policy in order to control population growth. What did the policy involve, and how successful has the policy been? In your answer, you should cover the rules of the policy. So that's the rules to be able to have your one child. What rules did you have to follow before you allowed to have your one child? You need to also cover the benefits of sticking to the policy. So what did they give you? How did they encourage you to stick to the policy? What rewards did you get if you just stuck to one child? You should also cover the punishments if you broke the rules. So what happened to you? You should also try and cover how they monitored people. How did they keep a checkup on people to make sure that they weren't breaking the rules and getting pregnant without permission? So what did they have going on? Think about what they did in the workplaces and in the neighbourhoods. You should also cover the problems that the policy brought. So you should be thinking about what we learnt about Luchifin with the needles and maiming in the child orphanages. You might even think about Little Empress syndrome with just having only children being spoiled. You might want to think about a gender imbalance and the fact that there were not so many men, not so many women as there were men, and the problems that that could bring. So there's lots of things for you to think about and write about. You should also try and cover the successes. So what good has come from the policy, and what good would come to just having an only child? And finally, and you mustn't forget this bit, how successful has it been in your opinion? So this is your view, and you can't get this wrong, because you can either argue that it's been really successful and you can say why and you'll get marks for that, or you can argue that it's been unsuccessful and say why and you'll get marks for that. So there is not a correct answer for that final point. It's your view. I want to hear your view, and if you can back up your view, you'll get marks for it. Okay, so that is your assessment. You can make a start on that now. Spend most of the lesson doing it, and then I've done a feedback slide. So once you've completed the work, I want you to unpause this slideshow and watch the next slide, which goes through some activities to help you get an instant grade and dirt your work. So pause this now and then unpause when you're ready. You will need to take photos of your work and submit it to your teacher, probably through Satchel One or through emailing it to them. Before you do, I would like you to check your answer to this question. This was question 6. It was the hardest question on the paper, and I have put there a mark scheme for you that tells you what you needed to do in order to get those levels. I suggest in a moment you pause this slide, have a read of the information, see whether you've done everything possible in order to get the best number of marks. When you've done that, you will need to go into your Teams meeting for the last 5 minutes of the lesson, and your teacher will give you the answers to the other questions that you have done. That way you can get some instant feedback before submitting all your work. Cheerio, folks. Goodbye.